Stop being a dead horse.
And you're like, huh?
Exactly. It's like, well, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing because I'm, 4 and I don't care. So, just ended up being that way.
Yeah, you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Just play.
So you were a rebel right from the get?
Yeah. I think my entire life I was just always a rebel. I was always up to no good. Always never listening. I mean, I'm sure if anyone had seen the NBC Titan games, you heard there we go, being a dead horse with one lung. So since I was 3.5, I had one lung, and ever since that point, I think subconsciously, I always knew I was the different one. I was always gonna be, chip on my shoulder, prove people wrong, prove everyone
You
wrong.
have siblings as well?
Yep, I have a brother and a sister. My brother, wrestled his entire life. I grew up in a wrestling family, so, wrestling mat in the basement. Dad wrestled, coached Division I, All-American. So kind of always grew up in a household where it was very strict on academics, athletics, and you just, work hard, play harder. And just been my entire life is just that go, go, go mentality. Do it right the first time. Don't fuck up. And just keep on keeping on and stay forward.
East Coast, right?
East Coast, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Jersey strong.
Upstate New York myself.
Yeah.
And New Jersey's a real piece of shit.
Everyone loves to hate on New Jersey. Everyone.
I know.
I mean, I even call
do?
it Dirty Jersey, so who am I to say anything? I mean, I grew up with the GTL life, like gym tan laundry.
Yeah.
Forget about the damn Jersey Shore, MTV show back in the day. Like, people used to force me to watch that when I was, and I was like, no, like, I know the real Jersey. Like, you don't understand. Like, we're very prideful people, even though it's funny because it's like, well, I left for a reason. Like, I don't live in New Jersey anymore for a reason, but still very prideful, in the sense of,
From like a city area or?
It's right in the middle. Actually, the town I grew up in, technically called the Shannock Station, there was a house down the block, down the street from where I grew up that was called the Centerville House. Really old, shitty house, like broken down, but it was the center point for George Washington back in the 17th, when he was alive.
Yeah.
For him between New York City and Philadelphia. So he used to stop at this house because it was exactly in the middle. So I'm exactly in the middle of New Jersey from New York City and Philadelphia.
Okay. So you mentioned already having one lung. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so
Explain.
Yeah, explain. We need.
I think we're supposed to have 2, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. Maybe some people have 3. That's a whole different story. But when I was 3.5, I had essentially what they like to call it is a post-inflammatory pseudotumor, which really what it means is, oh, we messed up. We thought it was cancer. It wasn't cancer. Oh my God, she's gonna live. So for 2 months, my mom tells a story and gets all like emotional and all this jazz. But, for 2 months I had a dry cough and the doctors kept sending me home saying, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just bronchitis. It will go away. And eventually over time, they're like, you know what? It's been going on, this dry cough. So let's go get an x-ray. I'm 3.5. I don't know any better. My parents were making these decisions and the doctors do an x-ray. They see this huge mass on my left lung and they're like, oh, shit, she's going to die. So I went right into emergency surgery. They took out my whole lung and they, branched everything else off and biopsied it, which is ironic because muscle biopsies. And they realized it wasn't cancer. It was benign. So, I just grew up my whole life, 3.5 with one lung. I couldn't play sports until I was 8. So I think that played a big role in just kind of my aggressiveness, not only being from New Jersey, but just always having, that chip, just world's against me, proven wrong. And once I was cleared, went through a lot of respiratory testing. I just went full into the game and started with soccer and basketball. And I was, it was my normal. I never thought, it was abnormal until I got older and people started, I kind of forgot about it. And then people started saying to me, wait, you have one lung? Or I still have the scar on the, I still have a scar across my rib cage because it was such a tremendous surgery. And every time I slightly mention it, and of course, because of the, Titan games more, be like, oh my God, I would never know. And to me, it's my normal though.
Yeah. What is it like? What does it do to have one lung? I mean, it must make some things more difficult, right? But it sounds like you were very capable of playing a lot of different sports, and it
Yeah.
seems like you're very physical.
Yeah.
So
I've always been very physical. I've always not cared who you were, male, female, big, strong. I want to just compete. And one big thing I always say is, don't compare, compete. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Do what you need to do and compete. And if you lost, guess what? You lost. You're a loser. I hate when people say participation trophies and all that. You lost. But yeah, for me, it's working a lot on my breath work. Working a lot on even underwater swims. Try to build up that capacity. I'm at 75% right now. My goal is to get to 80%. In the next couple of years. I'm giving myself a 3-year window to get to 80 because I just want to see how much I can push it. How much mass?
80% like what? What is
lung
it?
capacity. So 2 lungs, non-smoker, you have 100%. For me, 1 lung, because I was so my heart shifted. It's actually 2 pounds bigger than a normal athlete's heart, and my right lung is actually 1.5 times the size of a normal lung. So it's pretty big. Everything shifted.
Yeah.
So. For me, I want to continue to grow that capacity and see how much I can stretch,
I find that to be really interesting because, oftentimes in life, when we're dealt a bad hand, it causes other things to be kind of enhanced. So, maybe, you end up with this tumor and you end up with getting your lung removed. But maybe it just, if nothing else, maybe it just makes you like a little bit tougher than the next person, and it allows you to kind of push beyond, which it sounds like you're already doing.
Yeah, I love the fight. I like to say I'm a fighter and a lover, and but you got to love the fight as well. You can't just be one or causes other things. But for me, it was always everyone's got their normal. People born with 1 leg that everyone's like, oh my god, and they're like, don't feel sorry for me, like this is my normal.
Yeah.
I think everyone has a piece of that in there. It's just a matter of how did it manifest? How did you grow through that? How do you, what is normal anyway? I don't think there's such thing as real normal. I mean, everyone's a little bit fucked up in the head. A little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
What type of like specific breath work do you do to like help your capacity? Because I feel like everybody can do that type of stuff and be beneficial, right? Oh
yeah, of course. For me, the big thing again, XPT Life with Laird Hamilton and PJ Nelser. And, the Art of Breath with Brian McKenzie and those guys who I'm sure you'll have down here soon enough because they do wonderful work. I do a lot of their breathing techniques, but a lot for me is working on, I do a lot of a test called the Bolt test, which is, is seeing how much I can stretch that time. And I finally have gotten to 40 seconds.
Jesus.
Wow.
So that's a big thing for me. And the other big thing, again, these underwater swims, which I learned through SEAL Fit and work with U.S. Navy SEALs and special operators, Mark Devine, and being able to stretch. When I first started doing underwater swim holds, I couldn't get like 10 feet without gasping for air and getting up. Now I can go all the way down the pool and almost all the way back in one single breath and one hold. And it's just challenging that diaphragm. I do a lot of the Wim Hof styles as well. I like to dabble in a lot of them. I wake up in the morning and I'll do fire breathing. I'll do the breath holds just to charge my system up and say, look, it's time to work.
Yeah. Wow.
You start each day with a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups?
Yeah, that as well. I like to do that. I do like to do the push-ups I'll do the fire breathing, and then on that last breath, I'll hold it, and I'll do as many pushes as I can and see if I can increase that number. Right now, I can do about 50 with that hold without needing to, take another breath. After that, I'll go through, sometimes I'll do 100 and 100 when it comes to the pull-ups and push-ups. Sometimes I'll mix it up and I'll do sit-ups. Sometimes I'll do, 5-minute plank. I have barbell. I set up my living room as a gym. So I have horse mats, squat, freestand, barbells, everything I need to go.
I don't think people realize how like crazy it is that you have a 40 bolt score, because like it's really difficult to get that high. Like where did it start for you, and like how did you improve
back up
that?
a second and just explain it first?
Yeah. We should explain
we
that.
have talked about it on the show.
Yeah. People. If you haven't listened to the show, make sure
She got 40 points.
Yeah.
In 1 quarter.
Probably figure that out. Bolt. It started back in 1975. Researchers started, formulating this Bolt test, which is a blood oxygen level test. essentially what it is you sit down in a comfortable position, seated in a chair, and you take 3 easy breaths, and then on that 4th breath, you're just going to hold. And you're going to hold until you start to feel an involuntary reaction in your body. So say I'm holding my breath, and I'm relaxed, and all of a sudden I feel either a twitch in my body or a weird involuntary reaction to try to breathe. Time stops. So the time starts when you've started holding your breath. It stops when any involuntary reaction begins. A lot of people think, oh, I held it for a minute. I was like, no, you didn't. You see that little twitch in your diaphragm rib cage? That's when the time should have stopped.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I can do 40, no problem. I was like, no, you can't. Like, you really got to practice.
Yeah, for the record, it's hard to do like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's on your
most.
last breath out, right? So you let the last breath out. You're not doing anything fancy. You're not breathing abnormally, just normal breaths. On the last breath out, you hold it, and then you try to hold it, see how long you can go for, and then that's your score.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anywhere from 10 to 40 seconds. I mean, there are people that get 5. There are people that maybe can get more than 40. I haven't reached that point yet. Some days I know it might be a shitty day because I'll get 25. I'm like, okay, all right. It's not every day you get 40, but you continually try to work and improve that.
And
Go ahead.
you got there okay. When you first did your bolt score, I don't know if you remember where you started. What things do you think allowed you to get to that capacity of being able to do 40? Because again, that's really, really high. Like that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's going to be, a lot of people are going to freak out because they don't like ice baths. But for me, one of the big game changers, it wasn't just, the different arts of breathing, the different techniques. For me, the big game changer is when I started holding my breath under ice water. So when I started going in an ice bath, taking a cold shower, and working on involuntary relaxing, as Wim Hof calls it, vascular fitness, I started utilizing the cold to relax my body and help get that involuntary response to increase, so I wasn't freaking out in the first 10 seconds. So I was starting to build that capacity, and then holding my breath in ice water itself helped me. And that's when that was the real game changer for me, when I started doing that. And that actually came to me when I was doing Mark Devine's Seal Fit. I did Kokoro, which is a 50-hour, no sleep, simulation of Hell Week event, which actually completed with Ben Greenfield, the nerd we all love. And I realized that's when they first started doing it to me. And they realized,
who the hell would sign up for like Navy SEAL simulator? And I think Mark Devine, I think he does really well with the business that he has.
He does really well.
Seal Fit. It sounds asinine. We're just gonna beat the shit out of you. You mentioned being sleep deprived. I mean, it sounds terrible.
It makes not sleeping for 24 hours easy. Makes it so easy now. Like after doing that, like I was doing, jumping out of water. You got this really they purposely give you really crappy rucksacks. I had no skin on my feet. It was, I came back from Vietnam or something. Like my mom picked me up at the airport and said, what? Like she was almost in shock, crying. She's like, what happened? I thought I was bringing you to this. And
you were probably so excited.
Oh, I loved it. That's my heaven. Like for me, physical training, physical hell, like that mental push, to me, I'm at peace. Like I'm comfortable. Oh, there's one. I was just chilling. That was at SealFit headquarters when they were officially moving sectors and going almost primarily online, besides the Kokoro, camps themselves and the academies. But back when I did it, when I did Kokoro 34, there was a lot of people getting ready for special ops too. It wasn't just civilians, so it was pretty intense. I mean, within the first 3 hours, they found your weakness.
Wow.
For me, that was the big wake-up call. Was like, I need to get used to breathing underwater in an ice bath. And that really changed my involuntary response to holding my breath and staying calm and increasing my own work capacity.
Do a lot of people break?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that probably a lot, right?
Yeah, we started, I think even in ours, we had 45 to start. I think we ended with 20, some of that nature. But a lot of people, quote unquote, rang that bell or quit. And it has nothing to do with their physical fitness. A lot of times they just don't want it. They don't have a strong enough why. They're too external.
Did you think about it at all? Like, did it get so hard where you're like, maybe not even thinking about quitting necessarily, but just thinking I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if I can push through this any further.
No, I think I'm just wired differently where, you're always going to have that demon or that, darkness that comes upon you, but the option to quit was never something that or went through my mind, because I know the darkness is coming. I know the demons are going to pop up. I know the point is trying to break you. So as long as you know that they're trying to break you, and you know that the point is to have a breakthrough, then quitting is an option. So it doesn't dawn on you like, I'm done, I got to quit. Was there moments that just sucked, and there was a point where literally no skin on my feet, and they're trying to, spray them down so I don't get staph or MRSA or anything, and they didn't know that anything was wrong with me. They didn't know I didn't have any skin on my feet, after the second day, but, I just didn't care. I was like, well, it's, you got U.S. Navy SEALs as coaches. I can't show weakness. That's my environment, and I've been called crazy more than once, so, it's my type of crazy.
Do you think
sounds brutal?
Have you always been that way, or like was there a certain point where because you said you're wired differently, so was there a certain point where things kind of shifted for you in your athletic career, where you just like became more badass, or have you just always?
I think I've always been that way. I think I think anyone has those moments where they question, like, am I wired in the wrong way or in the right way?
Yeah.
Is this good or bad for me? But I think based on not only life experience, but just how I've lived my life, I just think I've always had that nature. I mean, I've had short hair my whole life. Like, since I was 5, I've had short hair. And people seem to love to ask the question, like, oh, did you just think, like, you thought pink was cool, so you cut your hair short? No. Like, my hair's been short my whole life. Like, it wasn't a business decision. It's just who I've always been. And does that cause sometimes demons to creep up? Because you always have been kind of the different one, quote unquote. Yeah, of course. But you learn to know that your weaknesses actually make you stronger, and who you are actually makes you better. You just need to figure out exactly who you are and what's your purpose.
That's, I find it fascinating that you have, put yourself through some of these things, and you were talking about the, depriving yourself of sleep, going through some of these camps and stuff like that. After learning so much, learning from Andy Galpin, and you've conducted many studies with him and so forth. You mentioned how easy it is for you to not, to go through a period of time where you don't sleep for 24 hours. How does that kind of conflict with some of the, tests and studies and things that you've seen come across where people are like, no, you need 8 hours, do we really need 8 hours? I mean, you need 8 hours all the time for maximum health. Like, what are some of your opinions on some of this stuff?
I think it's very dependent on the person themselves. I think some people, depending on your chronotype, and which is a whole nother story, the chronotype.
What's a chronotype?
Chronotype. So some people are, lions, where they can go to bed late at night, wake up early, and they're fine. Celebrities like Ellen DeGeneres, they're bears, where they have to go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they need their 8 hours. Other people are dolphins, where most people who are dolphin chronotype have insomnia, and they have very erratic sleep, and they can't always get the sleep. They're all over the place with their sleep, patterns itself. And then there's also the wolf. There's 4 chronotypes. So wolf, dolphin, lion, bear. And so all of them basically tell you what your best cycle of sleep is, or what your sleep pattern fits yourself best individually. And I've always, for years, I thought I was like, I'm a lion. I'm born in August. I'm a Leo anyway. I'm probably a lion, probably like 12 to 6. I only need 6 hours. I realized as I got older, like, that probably just me fighting my actual self. Like, I probably do need more than 6. So I think it's independent. Like, yes, I think just if you want to be successful, you're going to have nights where you don't sleep 7. We don't live in a perfect world. You're not going to always sleep 7 to 9 hours every night. Would I love to? Sure. But will I probably be successful, especially in, love Andy, but especially in the lab work and what we do? Probably not. There's sometimes I got to run gels at 12 a.m. Just got to get done.
Yeah, you said he might email you at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, I was up at 3:30 this morning. Why? Because I got things we need to do. I got It's why you work under a PhD such as Andy, because he lets you, be an adult, be responsible, take ownership, and just get the work done.
What is doing? You're mentioning these breathing drills, but also like the 100 push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like that first thing in the morning. How does that compare to like a cup of coffee?
I think I still drink coffee, but it hyper drives my system before I even need the coffee.
I would imagine. I mean, you probably get up some days and you're probably like pretty tired, but I'm supposed to do my push-ups. And I'd imagine that after you do the push-ups, you probably feel pretty good most of the time.
I feel pretty pumped, and to me it's my reset. To me it sets the intention for the day that this is going to happen. You're going to be a savage. Right. You're not going to let things get to you. You're not going to always, Jason Redman, who, is a dear friend of mine, he says I don't have bad days, I just have good days and great days. And that's the mentality that I learned from him, that it doesn't, if I get my 100 pushes in, no matter what happens today, it's going to be a good day. Because, I ate the frog in the morning. I did the hard thing first, which if you're groggy in the morning, you're not going to, last thing you want to do is meditate, do 100 push-ups, take a cold shower. That's the last thing you want to do. But, if you don't do it, you don't win the morning, you're not going to win the day. And that's something that, a lot of the SEAL team guys, a lot of the special operators have instilled in me that I still use to this day.
It's really easy to let a lot of negative self-talk creep in, because if you got these push-ups and breathing and different things that you're supposed to do, it's easy to say, oh, well, I only have 30 minutes to get to where I'm supposed to go, and just tend to talk yourself out of it. How do you avoid negative self-talk?
I think the biggest thing is that there's always negative self-talk, right? It's just a part of life. It's a part of human nature. But for me, I had a time period in my life where I let it affect me. And don't get me wrong, my life has been nothing close to perfect. I've had my shit. And to me now, it's just the feeling doesn't last. And that's not your thoughts. That's some self-conscious, that's some insecurity that you're letting have power, and just don't let it have power. So it doesn't last. The moment I hear the negative self-talk, like for me, what I'm thinking for me when I wake up really tired in the morning, it'd be like, yeah, just go to sleep, turn the alarm off, go to sleep. You can take 10 more minutes. But moment that bubbles up, I've trained myself to then say right to that thought is, no, and I'll actually say it out loud. I look like a crazy person. I'll say it out loud. No, you're a fucking savage. Let's go. Stop being, stop bullshitting, Kara. And saying it out loud, for some reason, the out loud part, because I hear a lot of people say, well, just say it to yourself. No, express it outside yourself. Then it kind of feels like someone else saying it to you, and then you just kind of go do your shit, and you forget whatever you were thinking about, and you just go get what you need to get and do what you need to do.
That's a great cue. I teach people all the time about these 10-minute walks, and I usually say, and same thing with just teaching people to stay hydrated. People love coffee. And they love energy drinks. So rather than just tell them, don't drink that shit and only drink water, like I love my share of coffee myself, I just say every time that you have coffee, that's your cue to drink some water. You know? And then same thing with like you get home from something and you have a tendency to want to just like relax, that's your cue to go do a 10-minute walk. The second that you just are going to indulge in, whatever it is that you normally do that's not getting you the results that you want, you kind of use it as a cue. Maybe even you have a tendency to want to have a snack, and it's not a healthy snack for you. Maybe you can change the conversation in your head and say, all right, every time I want to reach in the cabinet for a granola bar or a cookie or whatever it is, instead I'll have a protein shake. And it's just small changes, and you can kind of use those things to kind of navigate through the day. I haven't heard anybody talk about saying it out loud, but that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's one trick that I think I developed over time because, again, I'm a little bit crazy. It's a good crazy, though. But, and one day I was super just frustrated. And, I felt it. And we all have those days. It's just, felt it in my soul. I was just like, I'm going to break a window in, 3 seconds. And I just screamed out loud. And I was like, I feel a little better. And then just from there, I was like, maybe I should just start, instead of saying to inside my mind, hey, get over it, say it out loud. Who gives a shit who's around me? Say it out loud. Then all of a sudden I started to realize oh my God, these thoughts do not bother me at all anymore once I do this. I started some of my athletes doing it, especially some of the professional skateboarders that I work with. I'm getting ready for 20 Japan, and I started implementing with them just that small cue, and they're like, oh, Like, I feel better now. I'm like, yeah, see.
Great, we're gonna see people all over the place yelling at themselves. You're a savage.
Great.
And popping push-ups in the park and stuff.
Don't do that in Huntington Beach.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so it seems like you've always been kind of like a doer, but have you ever dealt with like, because you see a lot of people are battling depression and things like that. Have you ever battled with anything like that? And this type of like positive self-talk, is it something that you tell people who you probably have clients that have, you know, these types of problems? How do you help them deal with that?
Yeah, it's all interdependent on who the client or who the athlete is about what works best for them. And again, I'm very truth over harmony person. The truth is, I'm not a psychologist.
Yeah.
I'm not Andy. I'm not, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I'm not certified in those capacities. So I always refer out if I, need to, because again, I facilitate what I can and then refer out when I need to. For me, I've had a lot of dark days, and what I mean by that is the dark horse that no one ever wants to talk about, but I will talk about it to the day I die, because no one does, is I developed, after my 4th ACL surgery and losing my college basketball career, I wouldn't say developed, that's the wrong term. I always had issues with addiction, and I come from a very addicted family. I ended up going through a whole identity crisis where I was like, if I don't have basketball, if I don't have sports, I had this mask on. Who am I? So in basketball, I realized was the band-aid to the problem. Ended up in a hospital, 95 pounds, same height I am now, with very bad depression, very much suicidal. I was a week in a psych ward, which was probably the lowest moment of my life. Yeah. Anorexia, bulimia, all that fun eating disorder jazz. And, couldn't find myself, couldn't figure out who I was. And still was dealing with recovering from, especially bulimia. I realized after a lot of deep thought that I had anorexia probably in high school as well. That just no one ever said anything about it. So I used to just lie and say I was eating when I would just have like an apple a day and then train 6 hours because that's normal. But it came to a head after I lost my basketball career.
Yeah.
And then I just went full blown batshit crazy. And through that, through all those demons, it took me a good 3 years to be fully recovered and realize who I really was. And that came with, having a good support team around me, having the right people around me that knew me and knew how to change my perspective on what life was actually about.
What were you addicted to?
I think I was addicted to the need to have to be labeled as a legit elite athlete. I was addicted to the need to, if I'm not playing overseas basketball, if I'm not making money as a professional athlete, then I am absolutely nothing, because that was my entire life's goal, was to play overseas basketball, was to be this, WNBA. I wasn't good enough for WNBA, but, just
that
making money. That was the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when that didn't happen, I still was trying to fill that need. And I don't think it took me so long to figure out. And this is what I instill in a lot of, my younger athletes is like, I love when they say ball is life or skate is life. I'm like, no, life is life. Like, no, don't, no. Like, please don't say that. Like, I was thought that way too. And look, let me show you what happened to me. Let me tell you what happened to me. But it was that I was addicted to the need to have to be this highly recognized professional athlete on all the magazine covers or getting this contract. That's what I was addicted to. Until I realized that you need to switch that addiction to something healthier. I think we all have our little obsessions. We all have our little addictions, but realizing that we could flip the script and make it into a healthy manner where it's not this evil that I have to then go control other things like my food or, get in this deep, dark depression about. Just switch the behavior to something that's a more positive light and that you're of service to others instead of, trying to live this role that you're not supposed to be a part of.
So you weren't addicted to drugs necessarily?
No, I wasn't addicted to drugs. Was after my 4th knee surgery, take a lot of painkillers? Yep. I definitely had those moments where, like I have some family members, one family member in particular who came out of, rehab for heroin. I have a lot of alcoholism in my family. So I knew it was always in me. I was very aware of that. And, my dad is, as much as he is, I'm just like him, he's also my darkest teacher because he deals with alcoholism. So for me, it was, realizing the truth of what's going on and stop denying that you don't have an issue
Yeah.
when you have one. But yeah, opioids, I mean, I dealt with that. Would I say I was addicted? No, because I only had so much of a prescription. And I would say if I had access to bigger things, who's to say? I probably
Right.
would have.
You mentioned going to the psychiatric ward being, you know, a real low point. Did it turn out to be a positive, or was it just, you know, purely shitty?
I think.
Like, did it give you something to reflect upon and to shift gears on, to have it almost
Yeah.
maybe like a pivot point in your life?
Yeah, I think it was just really shitty. I don't think I thought of it as a positive until years later. And I'm 27 now. This happened when I was 20. So then I didn't think of it as anything but negative. I mean, I was a rebel in the bad way. You can't tell me what to do. Like, I don't have a freaking issue. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm still going to go out and do this. You can't tell me what to do. Like, it was very much like,
I mean, you
nothing
didn't
positive.
show up at the psychiatric ward on your own either,
No,
right?
no, it was because of actually, I guess, long story short, I had tried to essentially induce myself into, at the time, like, it seems like it's a dream now, like when I look at it, this is when I'd say to a lot of people, because I do mentor for, you know, individuals coming out of eating disorder units and I always tell them, I said, you're not recovered until when I ask you to look back on a moment or say like a really bad moment, like you had a really bad episode or you acted on behaviors. If you look at that moment, you still feel like you're in that moment, you're not recovered. But if you can look at that moment, like me in the psych ward, like before I went to the psych ward that night where I took 80 laxatives and downed a bottle of vodka and, you know, locked my door and just hoped to die. When I look at that moment, just like when I ask others, I feel like it's a dream, like I'm separated from it. That's when you know recovered. And if it wasn't for a teammate walking into my apartment, if it wasn't for, you know, my teammate knocking on the door and slamming down the door and calling the ER and getting me to where I needed to be, I would not be alive. Because I was trying hard, very irresponsibly. Like, you know, if you look back at the moment, like, why would you do that to yourself? But I lost all hope. I lost all dreams. I was like, if I can't be an athlete, I can't be anything. Like, that was my life's work, was to be a full-time athlete.
Is that like self-induced pressure, do you think? Or is that like, you know, you wanted to make your parents proud, or like, where do you think that came from?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think anyone who also loves powerlifting, also loved MMA, jiu-jitsu, people who love running. You know, let's not forget about the cardio people in the world. You know, some people
They're out there.
they're out there. When people say they won't run ultras, I'm like, God
yeah.
bless your soul. No, you know, I think we always put that self-pressure on us, but I think we also come to love it because of the self-pressure, but we also come to hate it because of self-pressure. But someone also, whether it was a mentor or parents, brought us into that realm. So I think there's always a little pressure there because you want to make them proud. So I definitely had both ends of the spectrum because, again, my father was, you know, all-American. Like, he was always the stud, wrestling man in my basement. So I think I always had that. I grew up in New Jersey. Like, we're a state that just doesn't give a shit. Like, we're as straight as they can be. We're, you know, like, not to get the religion, but Roman Catholic state. Like,
Right.
you know, it's very don't ask, don't tell type state in any regard, you know, regardless of, you know, sexuality, religion, sports, preference, whatever you want to call it. I'm not very political like that. You know, that's just how I grew up, is you don't play sports, do well in school. That's how Jersey rolls.
What'd your athletic progression look like? Because you came from a wrestling home, and then you also played basketball. You also did powerlifting. So
Yeah.
were you lifting along with basketball to help that out? Like, how'd that look like for you?
Yeah, so it started, I think, I mean, my dad always had me doing push-up stuff when I was little, but when I was 12, I asked for P90X for Christmas because I saw an infomercial.
I did it too.
Oh, you see, it's just part of the culture at some point.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's done Beachbody at some point. That's why they're billionaires.
Yep.
Everyone's done it. 12 got it for Christmas. I remember seeing it for, asked for it, and I became obsessed. Like, I had the dumbbells in the basement. I just, like, always wanted to lift. So I used to, like, no shit, before before school started in high school, even in middle school, after 6 to 8 hours a day, then I'd practice, then I'd go and get shots up. lifting was always a part of my daily routine, always. And I was, always in the gym with the football kids in high school, and I always get made fun of because I was always the only girl in there, bench pressing and probably power cleaning like God knows what. Probably never. Still to this day, I wonder why I thought that was a good idea. But the football kids are doing it, and I wanted to be strong, so I did it. And yeah, I learned the hard way years later, when not lifting correctly, what actually happens and not having the right coaches. But it was always a part of my life because I just freaking loved it.
Did you care to get like with doing a lot of these things that would be considered masculine? Did you care at all, like going down that path? You said you got made fun of. I mean,
yeah.
That must have took that. You must be very brave to kind of continue down that path. But was there like a side of you that wanted to maybe be girly at all as well, or?
Yeah, that's something. Great question, Mark. That's something that throughout my life has been one of my demons. And again, truth over harmony. Like the truth is I battled with that a lot. Is that I loved sports. I loved lifting. I loved all these masculine things. But why I think why I had such a hard time dealing with, recovering from, dealing with depression is because I never dealt with my feminine side and how much I actually enjoyed that as well. And for years, I just thought I had to be the jock because that's what Kara has to be. And then I realized, oh, wait, I feel great wearing heels. I feel great going out and wearing, lipstick and not that you have to do that. But for me, it was a huge, point in my life when I realized you can emulate the masculine side as much as the feminine side. It doesn't need to be this, blank slate where you have to be one way, because I battled that my whole life. I didn't even go to my own proms because I had even teammates of mine say, in high school, well, we just didn't think you'd want to wear a dress. We didn't think you'd want to go. And I think internally that always hurt me because I was like, what the hell? What do you mean I don't want to do that? So I was always placed in this box that I had to be just this masculine energy.
Yeah, they thought you were training.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I was. I actually ended up did that. I think on my senior prom, I actually think I did just say, fuck it, I'm going to the gym.
Go in and do some German volume training squats. 10 sets of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one thing where the moment, and this was maybe, I would say it was 4 years ago, I started, when I was having a day where I was just like, what the hell's wrong with you? I would literally put on, tight-ass pants, put some, put more, put girly stuff on, wear just your sports bra, whatever, wear, heels, whatever you need to do, and just go out, just walk around. And it was so funny when I started doing that, I was like, I felt 100% like myself. I was like, what the hell? That's all it takes for me to feel like myself is, and I just realized, that no matter what your appearance is, you're worth it, and there's two sides to everybody. It could be good and bad. For me, it was finding out that, no, I like wearing, having a feminine side. I am a female. I don't have to be this jock all the time. And it actually was funny because a therapist years ago looked at my tattoos and within 10 seconds goes, in spirituality, she said all this woo-woo stuff, and I was like, all right, lady, fuck off. And she's all these tattoos and said, they're all on your sleeve because you're covering up your feminine energy. I was like, what? All right, stop talking.
Fuck you, I'm out of here.
All right, feminine energy. Come on, you're telling me my cheese off now? Come on. But she's like, no, I'm serious. You have no tattoos on your masculine side, energy speaking, and all on your feminine side. So her point was your whole life you've been trying to cover up your feminine side. How about you just let it go and be who you actually are, and you probably won't be depressed. And she said that to me so confidently. And that's when I realized, oh my shit, she might be right. This sounds really weird that she, this whole energy thing. I'm big on energy, but sometimes when people talk really,
it can sound kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds kind of okay. I'm gonna try it, but let's. I went to a Chi class once. It was really. I was I don't know if I'm wasting energy or feeling energy, but okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm raking, air.
What did you guys do what did you guys do in that class?
It's the whole Reiki Chi, and I'm probably butchering the name, but Reiki is you're kind of breathing air over people, and it's supposed to be emotionally cleansing. I've done a few of them, and everyone's different. It depends on who you're around and their energy. For me, again, everyone's different. For me, I don't feel I just get more drained. I actually realize afterwards I'm tired. I feel really drained energetically. And I put two together, and I realized that I love service and I love serving others. So I end up not taking the time to take care of myself. So then when I do that type of stuff, I end up wasting more energy instead of helping myself. Because I just like to serve and help people get better. And at the same time, though, I need that time to myself. So,
I've had somebody do some of that to like my shoulder, and all they did was like, put their hands like next to you and like rub, but not touch you at all.
Yeah, that's what basically it is.
And you're kind of like, I don't mind being accepting of like all things. I don't mind, But at the same time, I was like, I don't really think that did anything. But I maybe you have to kind of like really buy into the concept. Otherwise, maybe it's not going to really work well for you.
I mean, yeah, there's a placebo effect
right.
to everything. For me, I don't think it works for me. I mean, I guess in the 7 years I've done it 3 times. Every time I walked down, they're like, it didn't help me at all. But at the same time, then I've had people be like, well, you didn't like really, adhere to it.
You got to drink this tea and take this pill before you go in.
Yeah, make sure you take the diet tea. You'll be good.
Super Dieter's tea.
Super Dieter's tea. And then you'll really, of course I'll really feel it.
Then you'll really understand everything.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for me, it was just realizing that I need to express myself as a female, because I spent so many years thinking I had to be this jock. When no character. It's like, sounds so strange when you think about it, like saying outside, like, yeah, but you are a female. But for me, it was so difficult to like understand that no, you don't have to be a jock all the time. And that's something that I really appreciate in other females that are super strong, and I see them, they're super feminine at the same time.
I think the stuff that you're talking about, it's funny because you keep saying that you're weird, but the more that you talk, the 100% more normal that you're sounding, at least to me. Because I think that you identified something really important, and you're still really young. You're like 27, you said? You recognize that there's 2 sides to every person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because you feel a certain way towards your masculinity as, the stuff you did as a child, the many women that you see on Instagram nowadays, posting, selfies and things like that, they struggle with the exact same thing that you're talking about right now.
Yep.
These girls that we see deadlifting now, some may be more girly than others, and some, some may enjoy their feminine side more, right? They might have their boobs kind of hanging out, or they might have
God did not bless me in that area.
a lot of makeup going on, or they might be showing off their butt or whatever it is they're doing. But we've talked to many women, and they talk a lot about, like, it's a big decision on, are they going to like wear a bunch of makeup to the gym for the day, or are they going to not do that, and they're constantly judging themselves, and they're constantly being judged. And then when we have this kind of day and age of social media, it complicates things even more, because who wants an image of themselves out there in the world that isn't the best portrayal, or is not representing them in the best possible way, right? The lighting and we're all sort of guilty of some of it, but I think you touched upon some really cool things, because there's duplicity in all of us. There's good and evil in all of us, and you're recognizing the opposite ends of the spectrum. Where when people are really weird, and when people are really and people are really freaky, or when someone is holy, when they're like complete, when they're complete, because those people will come off to be so weird because they're so overly happy that you just can't. You're
those
like
people.
You're like, oh, this person's gross, because they're so happy all the time, and you don't get it. Those are the people where I'm running the other fucking way. I'm like, I don't know about this guy.
No, when people are, I've met them. They just why they're just always smiling. I'm like, Jesus, like. If you're smiling and doing, like, I'm sorry, but I gotta be away from you because my energy's gonna ruin your day. Like, But then it's just, like.
And I love being happy, and I love being around people that are happy. But it's those, occasionally you run into that, a couple people where they're just. It's almost like they think they have it all figured out, and you're like, you ain't better than anybody. You don't have it all figured out. That's
actually, I'm glad you touched upon that, because that's the big thing I think in my head when I see someone that's that happy. Usually it means they got some real bad shit going on in their life.
No, there's something horrible going on.
But they're just got that mask on. They just got that mask on. And everyone's got a mask. It's just a matter of when do you take it off and around who. And if the people you take your mask off around are the people you probably should stay with and keeping your support team. And because those people that are going to be, no BS, they're, not going to have place a bias and they're gonna tell you the truth. And I just think a lot of people that are super happy like that, they have this mask that's like this thick,
Right.
and they just pretend again like they know
They
everything.
might have more to hide.
Yeah, and normally the moment someone's that happy, real cue is run the other way because probably shouldn't be around them, or they're it's just not. It's not reality. In reality, you're gonna fail. You're gonna be a loser sometimes. Other times you're gonna be a winner. But are you learning from it? How many corny Instagram quotes we see about it. Like it could be a quote book at this point with the amount of stuff on social media about it. If I see one more booty pic with the freaking Buddha quote after the booty pic,
Yeah, isn't that great?
it's great. It's like no, Susan. Like
Sometimes
there's
you gotta
one
look
meme that just it made me crack up. It was like Kermit sipping tea.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
it was like, no, Susan, you're not Buddha. You just have a nice butt. Like it's not
Right.
I just get this perception that as females.
My favorite one is when some of these girls will post up a picture and they're like, "I'm okay with being thick. I'm okay with being heavy," and they have a picture, and you're like, "This girl's flawless. What is she talking about?"
She's
Like,
half my size.
Yeah, I don't care having a little extra fat on my butt or whatever. And you're like, "What? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? You weigh
Yeah.
140 pounds."
Yeah, you're not. I'll show you fat. Like I'm saying, like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. We know
it's-
plenty of people that are fat. You're not even fat.
Yeah, no, it's just oh my God, people get so offended easily too, and I just
Yeah.
don't care anymore at this point in my life. I'm like, look, if you get offended by me, then you don't be around me. That's it. Like I don't care if it increases or decreases my followers. Like I'm just gonna give you the truth. And I think just even with especially with females and the social dynamic that goes on now, it's like I love what's going on in the community, just in sports and just with how many powerfully and strong women who don't give a crap what you think about their appearance. All they care about is, getting people in shape, getting people with the barbell in their hands, getting people, in a gi or not on the mats, hitting stuff and just realizing how powerful they can be and that they don't need to withhold to these whatever we consider norm standards nowadays, which they change every day, I think, just based on what the hashtag is.
Well, it's attractive when people are comfortable in their own skin, and if they're kind of letting
Yep.
loose and they're ripping up some 400-pound deadlifts, and then it's a chick, and you're just
Yep.
like, "God damn,
Yep.
that's awesome!
Oh, of course, you love it.
It's
And you get
super
excited.
cool." And the more that the more that you're yourself, and the more comfortable you are with you, the more comfortable other people will be
Yeah.
with you as well.
And it took me years. It's funny how many years it took me to like that one easy thing
Yeah.
to reckon and actually fully understand. It's a weird like click moment where you all of a sudden you have this clarity of like, oh shit, like what the hell was wrong with you before? Okay, we're good. And then from then on, I just never looked back, never saw that other person. Seems like a dream to me now. Like I don't resonate with anything from that. Being in the hospital, dealing with, bulimia, just all the demons I have. I don't even know who that was. Now it was a clicking moment. You're just like, oh, like I can be, a powerful female and work with, Andy, be best friends, be family with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who's one of the best DOs in the world. And we can be both female, alpha, humans and challenge and care for each other, but also be feminine at the same time. You don't have to be this, one way street.
Yeah, Gabrielle is awesome. She helped me out with a friend of mine who was really struggling. He's having these like seizures, and he was throwing up, I don't know, 60 times a day or something insane. And I was trying to find some friends. I'm like, who the hell would know anything about this situation?
Mhm.
And I fired her a text message, and she was like, she just wrote back in caps, "Your friend has worms." And I was like, fuck, okay. So, I kind of researched a little bit what she was talking about and relayed the message to my buddy. And she was kind enough to direct him to the right spot. And long story short, they stuck a bunch of stuff up his ass. They found out he does have parasites, and they're working on treatment for it. So hopefully, but
Yeah.
it's just things like that. I met her one time.
Yeah.
She came here one time, was on the podcast, and it's just cool to develop friendships like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we never met, if I never went to SEAL Fit, so this is what's funny. Talk about like weird connections or universal things. If I never had the 4 ACL surgery and lost my basketball career, I would have never probably had the low point as low as I did with dealing with bulimia. If I never went to the hospital and had bulimia and didn't take so long to recover and find myself, I would have never found SEAL Fit. If I never went to SEAL Fit to Cora, I would have never met Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. If I had never met her, I would have never met Andy. And I've never met Andy, I wouldn't have been on the Titan Games. If I'd never been with Andy, Titan Games, I would never be on this podcast.
How was the Titan Games for you, by the way? Like, how was that whole experience?
Lovely. I mean, I had my moments. I had my, as you're great, good friends with Charity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Charity Wood. And, we became really close out of it. So it was
That's cool.
all good things. I mean, the episode that I was on, the Valentine's Day episode, I had a really great time. There was a lot of human connection and it was cool how we're all lifting together. We're going to know each other. There was no BS because I went into it like, this is Hollywood. There's going to be some people that are like, they're trying to, get their brand out to the world.
Yeah.
And I just don't care. I just want to compete. And I loved it because a lot of people were getting anxiety, like walking in that arena. And I was like, oh no, this is great. Like, I'm loving this. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment, and I learned a lot about Hollywood, especially the semifinals night. I learned a lot about Hollywood and just how it operates and, how I react to certain, and not respond sometimes to situations. So I just grew stronger from it. And I mean, I could vouch for that show all day long because it, made you a better person.
When you say you learned a lot about Hollywood, what do you mean exactly? Because I feel like there's something there. I'm curious.
When you're getting, shoved around in 10 different outfits all night long when you're about to compete,
Yeah.
and you never had to, all the other challenges, it definitely makes you realize where you're at mentally with dealing with competition when you don't have your routine. And, my friends were funny, like, but when you, at the end of the day, though, that's what, I'm a competitor at the end of the day. When you lose, you lose. Like, you lost.
Yeah.
You lose, you lose. But in the Hollywood side of things, I learned how much they actually do not care about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do not. Like, I was shuffled around all these different uniforms. They're like, all right, 2 minutes. I'm like, what? I'm not even in the. I remember, like, be like, I'm not going to be a Titan in a second if you don't let me change, like, get warm. I'm like, what's going on? But it was just a really cool experience. I'll also see the other side of things, how much I just love being in an arena with everyone watching you. Like, how laser focused I am.
Yeah.
And how much fun I have with it. Like, if I could be in that environment every day, if I could wake up to that.
Yeah.
Imagine we could all wake up to that. I just loved it. And it was good to have other grad students around me and, feel that out. And, honestly, it was a cool dynamic since you saw who the athletes were and you saw who not athletes were.
In
Throughout the whole show.
Yeah. In what sense? Like, what type of athletes didn't end up doing, like, too well in that sense?
Just in the sense of how we handled pressure.
Ah, okay.
In the sense of when the arena got on, you saw you saw the best and worst of everyone. You saw who got anxiety and who was just loving it, And yeah, there's always, I think it's safe to say everyone had a little bit of that nervousness going on or a little bit of that anxiety, but who was loving it and who made it a positive and then who turned it into like this negative where it was like a bad thing. But overall, it was just one of those, times where I was so thankful for it, and I'm glad, Dwayne put that up because he's just an awesome person. Like, you can't say anything bad about that guy. Like, it's like talking to your uncle.
It looked, it looks to me that you're talking about like they're kind of like shuffling everybody around. When they're in those environments, they don't have time for. It's a TV production,
Correct.
So they don't have time for worrying about. Whether you're worried if you're warmed up or whatever. So they're just going to keep firing through people. But I imagine being in that environment, you kind of get to see how other people are acting. And they're probably like, I don't know, trying to like look a certain way on camera or get Dwayne's attention or right.
Yeah,
like,
and that was really the big thing.
And you sit
for
there
me,
and watch that, and it's probably like you're probably kind of just halfway disgusted by some of it, right? Because you're just thinking like, I just want to kick some ass.
Yeah. Well, that was what was funny is that a lot of people, I'll never forget, after the show, like after it was like starting to air, and I saw people off, like when we because I was fortunate enough to be there for the whole filming process because I made it far enough. But then like afterwards, when we reconnected like outside of the set, I had a lot of people say to me, they're like, "Wow, like you're actually really cool. We thought you were like a bitch on the set." I was like, "What do you mean competitive?" I was like, "It's just because like we're about to compete. I'm not exactly be like, hey, like let's go have a beer. Like I'm gonna be like, no, we're going. Like I get really locked in. So apparently, but So that was really funny to me, like, you know, just seeing how other people saw you versus how you saw them. And then, you know, coming across the board again, like in Hollywood, like when I say I learned a lot about Hollywood, that's what I meant is like the shoving me around and like that you know, again, I lost, and like I'll say this once, I'll say it 100 times. Like I lost because I couldn't get through. I still had that mental barrier I have to get through where I let that affect me more than competing itself. Where I think that's a lesson in, you know, any facet of life is that it doesn't matter what is going on. It doesn't matter if you're warmed up or not. It doesn't matter. No one gives a shit. You either won or you lost. You either did well or you didn't. You either fucked up or you didn't. Like it's
the conditions weren't different for
exactly
right. They were the same for everybody.
No matter
pretty much.
Yeah, no matter what, this is me. No matter what, just know at the end of the day that this is me and this is how I'm going to show up as, and I'm going to let you know that I care, that I compete, and no matter win or lose, that I'm not going to be an asshole. Like, and that's what, you know, I loved about the show is it taught me that lesson again, where I think I needed it in life, is to see, like, how do I compete no matter what happens? How do I set up myself no matter what happens?
Yeah, those situations are cool because you can get to get locked in with how you react, you know, in such a intense environment. You know, are you still like a good person, or are you being, you know, mean or rude to other people just at the cost of like you trying to reach for greatness, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Get to see how you act, you know.
Yeah, and that was the great thing. I mean, you know, like me and Charity became good friends out of it. You know, I got a lot of other you know, friends out of it, and it was an awesome environment. Everyone really cared, you know, generally cared about each other.
Any idea they're doing another show or something? Are they?
Yeah, they're doing a season 2. Who knows if they're gonna bring back, you know, the 8 males and 8 female. I mean, I kind of got an inkling of what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Which, you know, who time will tell. I don't even know if I can even say anything or not. Who knows what I can say or not say.
Out of how difficult it was compared to other things that you've done, was it really hard?
It was really fun.
Cool.
Like, if there was anything I was angry about, is not having another challenge. Like, you know, because to me, I just love competing. So it was just fun to me. Off the rails, to me, the first one that we're watching right now wasn't particularly hard.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it was hard for you. Jeez.
Even though apparently, I mean, it was 60 cement blocks, but what was really funny, and I hope if I'm on a season 2 or whatever, I hope they don't hear this. But the one thing on my entire life that I left out was that I grew up throwing anchors at the Jersey Shore on boats. Like, they didn't know that part at all. So when I got that challenge first and I saw that I was against, you know, Bree, who's super, super fit. Like, she'll crush me in a day in a CrossFit workout. And she didn't grow up around boats or anything. So we both threw the anchor and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. She don't know this about my life. There's no way she's going to win. So I was just couldn't, you know,
yeah, damn, she's pretty jacked.
She's jacked. And we went to the training yard.
And look at her back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and she's a former gymnast. Like, she's no joke.
That's
no
it's
joke.
crazy because you went there and you got back and she was still heading in that direction.
I actually helped her finish. I jumped on the platform. But obviously, you know, Valentine's Day, she got, you know, engaged to, which I turned into a little child afterwards because it was a joke that he was going to or not. And then we did it. I, like, freaked out. I was like, I knew it was going to happen. Like, I knew it. But, yeah, it was a really fun experience. I mean, Mount Olympus, the obstacle course, you know, like, challenge to become a Titan, that was hard because, obviously, I'm kind of in the middle ground. I have conditioning, but I'm not, and I'm strong, but I'm not, you know, out the box, you know, strong. I'm not, you know, I'm average strong, in my opinion. So, to me, Mount Olympus was challenging hard in the way that there were so many different dynamics. Like, that ball, like, I thought I was going to be able to drag that a lot faster than I really did. But then you're so tired, you got to the bottom. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's not as easy as other people made it look.
Yeah, Charity looked like she could smoke a cigarette while she was doing it.
Yeah. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that because I was behind in the set and I like turned to like, mother. I was like, no, I did not try to do that. But
it was weird when she you know, was dragging it versus the other girl. You're like, am I missing something? Like, does she have a different, like, weighted thing?
Even some of the guys, they were dragging it like me too. And I was like, there's something to this. I don't know what's going on. But, you know, I wasn't dragging it like that. I saw the chain. I was like, no.
And the
Don't-
size of or the weight of everything was the same for men and women. I
Yep.
think Charity was saying, right?
Yeah, same for the men and women, which made it even more impressive because I'll never forget that because I was watching. I was like, oh, I'm screwed. I am so screwed if I go up against her. And then like when I did, I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Yeah. Oh god, this is like PTSD. Like
The Herculean pull.
PTSD all over again because I made a very vital mistake of thinking my hands are big enough to wrap around that pole. It's funny that there you go. Not using my
So
shoulder.
you do get pretty tired going through some of these events.
Yeah, this one I wasn't tired at all. I just was stupid.
Hmm.
I watched that like game film.
So there's a certain way that's what
That's what I was supposed to
do.
do, and I tried to use my baby hands. When
And you don't get like practice runs on this stuff.
no,
Do you get to at least see it before you do it?
yeah, we got to see it. I mean, other people had done it beforehand, so I mean, again, I'm not someone to make excuses. Like I fucked up. I lost. Like she annihilated me, and that's the mistake I made. And at least I have good friends, and they sent me that night to make me not be so hypercritical. Because I was watching it like game five. I was like, "What are you doing? Why did you think that was okay? Like, what the hell?" Like it was crazy. And they sent me. Most people won't know this reference, but if you ever watch SNL, you've watched Kristen Wiig's baby hands. She got the little baby
I
hands.
remember that. Yeah.
Well, my friend sent me a lot of memes of that picture of me with the pole in the face,
Baby hands.
and Kristen Wiig's baby hands, and just like when you think you're hard, when you think you're strong enough to pull out the stripper pole, but you can't because you got baby hands. Just made me feel a little bit better, but you know, again, you gotta make fun of yourself sometimes just to kind of get out of your own shit.
Yeah, for sure. What's it like working with Andy Galpin?
What is it like? It's like working with.
Is he a pain in the ass?
No, I mean, I like him because I think I'm a little bit of a pain in the ass. So I think we get along in that capacity that, you know, I understand where he's coming from, where you're in your master's, you're in the master's program, in a very hard master's program. It is not time. Oh, there we go. It is not time to be an undergrad anymore. Like, it's time to be an adult, take ownership, have responsibility. So a lot of people,
Oh, God.
there you go. There you go.
Sorry
So
about
I
that.
got so those are those are the memes I got of me with the big Herculean pole of my hands, and I couldn't stop
Terrifying.
laughing because that's legit what I looked like. Because why I thought it was okay to switch to that grip, I don't know, but I did, and that's what happens.
And it didn't work.
You get crushed, and you deserve it. Yeah, it was. Working with him is very good for what my personality type is like, and like Andy always says, he changes how he talks and how he conversates and works with different graduate students based on their personality. But I think when it comes to personality, mine's as close as you can get to kind of that type A. Like, I don't give me one word answers, and give me a task, I'm just gonna get it done.
He doesn't have to say like please and thank you and all
Yeah.
that. He can just ask you for stuff and
Yeah.
he'll just get it done.
Where like there's a lot of other students, and it's a big joke in our strength lab out there is like, can you do anything wrong? Like, oh, you and Andy are, this BFFs, I guess. I'm like, no, I just think I understand that don't be soft. Don't be this, soft personality where like you need help with everything. Like, come on, most of us are in our higher 20s.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Like, if you got something to do, get it done. Because he loves to send like the one sentence emails or like just a package slip. Well, that means pick up the package. Like, it's not that difficult. And even with, running gels, like, just get the work done. And I like working that way. And I think it prepares you for actual life. And I think that's what makes Andy a good mentor and a good, good at what he does, is that he makes sure you learn. It's not him, he teaches you, but you need to learn in your own way as well. You can't be baby, because you won't make it, especially in the fitness industry. You won't make it in this world.
Yeah, he wants you to, come to him with not just what he's asking for. He wants you to read into it probably a little bit and come up with your own kind of polished answer probably.
Yeah, because, another one of my mentors, James Smith, he always says there's no new knowledge without criticism. So he wants you to ask why and wants you
The
to
thinker?
Yeah, the thinker, James.
Nobody
the Thinker
likes James Smith except for you. You got one person.
Smith. Why does no one like James? the
I
Thinker
like
Smith?
James Smith, but I've had him on the podcast before, and everybody hated him.
Aw.
Unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
But he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. He's
a genius.
He's unbelievable.
I mean, I could see why people kind of get, because he loves the physics.
It's hard. Yeah, it's just hard to like draw out the right information from him sometimes,
Yeah.
and then because he consults, it's hard for him to really get real deep into it without kind of referencing that he consults people. So it's kind of a tough balance. But I like him.
Yeah, I mean, I was with him on over the holidays, and I know exactly what you're saying, because like it's just, you got to be really. And he has very big words, and you got to make sure you understand those big words.
He has a massive vocabulary.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I have half a notebook of just being with him for, I think I was 3 hours with him, and I have like 100 pages of notes, because I was like, okay, oh, I need to like reference this later, because I don't understand what you're saying right now.
People talk a lot about like the Juggernaut training system. They talk a lot about, the work of Chad Wesley Smith.
Yep.
The work of Chad Wesley Smith, a lot of it comes from James Smith. And Chad's not going to hide that. Chad didn't try to hijack that.
Yeah.
It's just the two worked together for a long time.
Yeah, and I think he's a very smart man. I mean, The Governing Dynamics of Coaching is a book I have on my shelf, and I always reference, because I think it's very geniusly put together. And I think more people should have that book, but that's just me. I think if more of us branched out instead of just our typical, human movement, strength and conditioning, let's all talk about myofascial therapy.
I definitely need to have him on the podcast again. It's confusing because he is a strength coach, but he doesn't think strength coaches should exist.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, well, what's the solution?
Yeah. He doesn't think there is a such thing. He doesn't like to be called strength and conditioning.
Right.
He doesn't like to, he's James. He's a consultant.
Right.
And I agree where he comes from.
I agree with what he said.
Yeah, because it does make a lot of sense. We always try to put ourselves into one category when really we just work with humans, and we just help humans connect around their way and get healthier.
Right.
So why are we just going to debunk it to one thing?
What's something that you've learned from Andy that maybe is something that you carry outside of school, outside of academics?
Yeah, I think the big thing with Andy that I carry outside of, especially the academic front, is the willingness to not just talk to people not just to talk through people, but to talk to people and to understand where they're coming from, so that you can now change and develop the plan accordingly. So I think a lot of times people just, in life, they just see people for who they are, or see an athlete for who they are, and they develop this whole plan based on just their body type or just what they've done in the past, and not based on who they are as a person, to build adherence and build connection and get buy-in and trust. And for me, I think that's a huge thing, not just in academics, but in life and how you're dealing with other humans is, how do you create that connection, and how do you talk to them, not through them, to get that lifelong goal? Or whatever, if it's an athlete, get, to that competition, have them perform well. If it's a human, get them to, actually give a shit about you and know that you care about them.
I think that's great. And I think that, sums up a lot of what he was saying on the previous podcast that we just did with him, where he was just kind of saying how he coaches people, his style, his style of mentoring and the way that he's able to kind of interpret what somebody's telling him, and talking through somebody. You're not really going to, if I just give you a bunch of information, maybe you'll do something with it. But if I give you some information, but I actually listen to some of your responses to what I'm saying, now we have a really great conversation, and you got something you can actually utilize.
Yeah. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
And, he is very consistent in doing, everything and anything, and doing it. He's doing it the right way, or the way he knows he needs it to be. And you got to be the same way in academics in the lab, because I already have had several conversations, new grad students, with, just kind of getting out of what needs to be consistent is just having that constant communication conversation. Luckily, I've created that buy-in and trust with them, where I can say certain things and be like, look, like, this needs to be here, this needs to go here. This is why we do things this way, is because this is the result we're looking for. And I'm a very results-oriented person, and so is Andy. At the end of the day, what are we going to do for him? Because he's technically our boss. He's not, as much as, I call him Andy and, we're out here and we're doing this and other thing. Like, he's still my superior, and I still need to make sure I'm continually growing and learning from him and serving him because he's the reason I'm here.
What do you have coming up?
Woo, a lot.
You said you're working with a bunch of athletes on the upcoming Olympic Games, right?
Yeah, so I'm getting to my street skaters ready for 2020 Japan. So that's pretty awesome. First time street skating. So is in the Olympics. That's going to be, I love it because it's a whole new challenge.
How are you working with them? Like in what regard? Mainly consulting or actually like strength coach or?
Yeah, strength, both. So
are you physically with them or
yep.
more like online? Okay.
It's definitely in the physical more than anything. I do have to consult sometimes because actually they both just left for China. So they're in China right now. So I do have to do a little bit of the phone calls and making sure they're all, the regimens and everything we've put into place. But it's very exciting time.
Does that kind of encompass everything from like food to stretching to morning routine, kind of almost everything? Yeah,
we're looking to, like, for me, I have the nutritional side of things, but I also know where I need to refer out. So I have a sports nutritionist who I allow to start foreseeing what they need. So he's just started working with them and kind of getting their game plan together on the nutrition side of things. So I primarily work with them just on
that makes sense. I mean, this is about winning, right? So you want the absolute best.
Oh, yeah.
You want the most attention on every category. Make sure it's taken care of.
Yeah, especially because they're not getting the money they deserve or need right now.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, but it's an unfortunate truth when you're not basketball or soccer in the Olympics. You're street skating. Like, no one gives a shit about them yet. So we need to make certain things happen. Like, I'm going to have, Dr. Gabrielle on board with some of their medical stuff. I have, sports nutrition side of things covered. I'm going to stick to, I know how to stay in my lane. I'm going to stick to the human movement, the strength and conditioning aspect, because that's what I know I can do best for them. And I'm not going to waste my time with stuff I'm not an expert in. So let's get the actual experts in to help them out. Because it's not what I super love anyway.
What else you got coming up?
I'm working with a couple of SEAL team guys as well. So I do a lot of consulting in that regard. My biggest point in my life right now is not only building my brand, but building upon what I've already built in getting a full-time job, as well as all this online stuff. Whether that's, continuing to work with just these athletes, that kind of depends on, a couple of X, Y, and Z things to happen, or going down to Coronado and working on base with the military. Those are kind of my two big keys. Is I want to serve people that serve this country, and I used to be all about if I'm not going to be a professional athlete, I need to work with professional athletes, or I need to work with celebrities. And I realized that that's just not my, that's just not where my heart is leading, or really my mind now. I want to work with special operators, and if I end up working with professional athletes, I end up working with professional athletes. But now I'm in that weird, as everyone experienced, I'm in that weird spot right now where it's like, all right, I need to make money, but I want to do what's best. But I want, and I've had a lot of people come up to me and say they want, why don't you just blow up the online business? Why don't you just, I could do the templates all day long if I wanted to, but to me, I don't think that's coming from a place of integrity for myself. And if I'm going to work with people, I'll work with people, one-on-one. That's just how I feel about it. Everyone's different. And hey, if you could do it that way, go. But, I like to work with people physically. I'm big about interpersonal connection.
Yeah.
Do you still fight? Like, do you have any fights coming up?
Yeah, that's another thing. I have a lot of avenues. I'm about God, this is coming up. I got about 5 different directions I'm at right now, which always makes it interesting. Is I'm still fight training.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in that realm, and I think that's my first ever fight. Zero technique.
Not too bad though.
It's a flat out brawl.
You're just smashing her face.
I think I slam her at some point.
You're definitely comfortable with somebody throwing punches at you. I mean, that's usually the first thing you see when somebody is new, is that they like flip out when someone throws a punch.
It is.
I get excited.
Yeah.
I get excited. And that's Antonio McKee is one of my coaches, and fortunate to work with all these Bellator pros and be in their support and mentorship. And they put me in the cage. That fight was within a month of actually training. And Antonio, he's a very smart man. He did it on purpose. He's like, because the problem with most females is they train for all these years, never having a fight, and they're so technically sound. But there's an intangible here.
Mm-hmm.
These same women then get in the cage, they get hit once, and it's like, who are they?
Yeah.
So he does it on purpose to a lot of the female fighters, like put you in the cage right away to see if you have that intangible. Can you take a hit? He's like, is it always the safe decision? No, but he said for me, just what he saw, that you'll be good. And
part of that is it's not so much separation of male and female. It's I think that sometimes men get exposed to contact sports maybe younger,
yeah.
and so might be more used to that contact, whereas maybe a girl might get in there and get clocked and then be like, oh shit, I'm kind of disoriented now.
Yeah, that just goes to our how we develop. I think just a lot of guys are just used to it, and I didn't at the moment. Everyone was like, "What are you doing?" But I just loved it, and I think the hardest part for me was having to have no gel in my hair. Out of the whole thing, I loved everything except the fact you can't have gel in your hair, so my hair just got to be crazy. But I want to, I am still training, and I do still love it, and probably will take a fight on soon.
Yeah.
But I just love it as a hobby right now because I know being that athlete, still always that athlete mindset.
Well, that competitive side is important too because you're a coach and people are looking to you, and it makes a big difference when you've actually put up some points on the scoreboard yourself.
Correct.
They're like, okay, I see this person's done. Andy has his Olympic lifting background. He's got some mixed martial arts background. And that to me, that helps a lot.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna put more faith in someone that's doing it both ways, the way both of you guys are.
Yeah, no, for me it's a huge thing. I always say, competing, fitness, whatever your fitness is, lifting, MMA for me, basketball as it was and as it still is. If I'm not doing it, if I'm not competing in it on a daily basis, I literally have an alter ego. I am not myself. It is literally my heartbeat. My heart will stop if I can't train. It will. I don't know if it actually will, but it feels like it will.
Yeah.
And I'm not Kara. I need to come up with a name for the alter ego, but I'm what's bad, and it's true, when your mom can call you and just knows off the tone of your voice, because she won't say anything. She's like, I'm going to hang up. You need to go train, and hang up the phone. I'm like, oh shit, okay. She's
It's
right.
like the Snickers ad.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be a new Snickers ad. But that's really what happens to me. So it's just, and you're right, Mark. It's just, I think athletes respect you more when they know you've gone through the grind yourself. I mean, I know I do. In other coaches, if I have a coach that didn't go through it, I kind of have that moment of well, do you really know what you're talking about then? Or do you just read books? It's kind of that. Can you do a pull-up? Why are you teaching me pull-ups if you can't do a pull-up? I think you need to be, especially, I feel very strongly, as if you're going to show an athlete an exercise, you better damn well know how to do it right, and know how to put some weight on that bar, or know how to do at least a couple reps of that exercise. Or then why are you showing it to them? That always grinds my gears when I see coaches showing people things that they can't even do themselves.
Where can people find you?
Ooh, they can find me on Instagram at KillerKO with one L in the Killer. K0, Facebook, Lazauskas, and then I have my website, karakillian.com, and I'm starting to put up some research and blogs myself, for free, kind of
Cool.
That path.
Awesome. That's all the time we got. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.
Boom.